Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Pfeiffer. This is Conversations on Retail. We're here today with James Smith, the co-founder and CEO of Arkansas-based James and James. So how are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I have been a big fan of the James and James brand, following it really closely, really since 2017. Such an interesting story, such an interesting business model. I want to start kind of at the very beginning, because I think a lot of us entrepreneurs have a tendency of finding something that we're really kind of naturally good at, and then figuring out a way to build a business or monetize that thing that we're really good at, and then maybe eventually build a business around it. And your approach was quite the opposite of that, right? Tell your story.
Yeah, mine was definitely necessity. I was working in digital marketing and found myself in between jobs. I was in my early 20s, living in a house with two other guys, sharing rent, and was just trying to figure out, what am I going to do next? And more importantly, how do I pay my share of rent and buy food in the meantime? And around that time, Pinterest had just come out. So having had been in digital marketing, was curious, what is this site that everybody's talking about? How are they going to monetize it? So I got on there and I noticed that a lot of the users on the site were pinning really rustic, solid wood furniture. And having had just moved and furnished an apartment and moved back to Northwest Arkansas and been in furniture stores, I'm like, you really can't find that look in stores, or at least you couldn't at the time. So I thought, I bet I could build a coffee table that looks like that. I mean, the good thing about solid rustic furniture is it's not ornate, So went and bought a skill saw and some wood at Lowe's and built a coffee table in the garage. I got about halfway through making it, and I didn't realize the saw blade I got wasn't deep enough to cut all the way through the 4x4 that was going to be the leg. And so I was trying, I needed to be straight because it was a leg. And I was like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. I've just blown money on the wood and the tool and stuff, but finished it out, threw it up on Craigslist. And from there, kind of accidentally started a company. I had no woodworking experience, but I needed money. And so I would just Google and YouTube and figure it out. And of course, 11 years since then, we've been able to hire in people that are really excellent at that and help elevate everything to the next level.
Yeah. Well, so one of the reasons I've been so fascinated with your business is because I grew up in such a talented home. Grandfathers and my dad and my uncles, were all very, very gifted woodworkers.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
So you walk into stores today and you see so much that's just junk, pressed wood and veneers, and to see what you were, the quality of what you were building in the local market on its own was enough to really kind of gain my respect. But then the fact that you've created this direct-to-consumer model where you've got customers all over the country, and no two pieces are really alike, because you give the customer so many different options. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. How long did it take you to figure out that this coffee table in your garage, what kind of followed that, and how long did it take you to figure out that there was a business there?
Yeah. Started building, and it was just kind of some fun extra cash. I think it took a couple of weeks for the first coffee table to sell. But people would reach out to me, say, hey, can you make a couple end tables? Or I need this little bench for an entryway. And pretty quickly after that, a friend of mine from college, also named James, was like, hey, I love what you're doing. Can I come and build with you? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we started splitting the costs and splitting what we sold it for. And that's where James and James was born out of. I think we were working in the garage for probably 2 or 3 months, and we kept getting emails, kept getting phone calls. And I thought, this might be able to be something more than just something to make a little extra money. I think for me, really, when we first started, we're like, people are buying from us because we're more affordable. And that was our premise, because we didn't have the overhead. We didn't, and then I think we did a delivery pretty early on to, multi-million-dollar home somewhere in Northwest Arkansas. And we've been doing it for a few months. And we were carrying the table in, and I heard the neighbor come out, and she's like, you didn't tell me you were getting a James and James table. And it kind of clicked in that moment, just really realizing like, oh, I think I think they're buying from us because they can't find this quality anywhere. They can't find this look anywhere. And because they want to support craftsmen. And that's where we really flipped everything on its head and said, okay, we need to build a brand out of this. And I think we have something with true staying power.
Yeah. So when you started tinkering in your garage, you were between jobs. Were you continuing to look for a job while you're doing this kind of early stages building in your garage, or did you decide fairly quickly that this was worth being completely focused on?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think I was building the garage for a couple of weeks. And so I was working at Rockfish Interactive, left Rockfish for an opportunity out of state, hated that, moved back, and they were gracious enough to take me back. And so I did start working back at Rockfish, actually reporting to Bill Aikens for a while, which is fun to have him on the team now. So we would, I'd go to work in the morning, get off, go to Lowe's, get the wood that we needed, build until 2 a.m. and do it all over again and do a lot on the weekends. And that was great because it allowed us to reinvest a lot of what the business was making back into the business, into getting better tools, ultimately leasing another space. It was about a year after I built that first coffee table that I quit my full-time job at Rockfish again, and then went into working at the business full-time.
Yeah. So how long were you building on spec before you started taking custom orders? Was it fairly early in the process?
Yeah, we kind of did a mix. It depended on like the volume. If we had a lot of people that requested a specific size or a specific color, we'd build those first. But if we had extra time or extra wood, we'd build some other things and list those too. Fast forward to today, everything that we're building in our shop is something that a customer has ordered and specified.
Okay. Yeah. So I was going to say, fast forward, tell us about what the business is today. Obviously you went from a garage operation with a business partner. The partner has exited. You've raised some money, right? You've got a great big team and just going gangbusters. Tell us about what the business looks like today.
Yeah, sure. So like about 2 years in, James sold his half to two other guys, and they both own 25% of the company. They're great digital experts and awesome business partners to have. They both live out of state, so they're not involved day to day, but they're there for the big decisions and helping a lot with the technical challenges. Fast forward to today, we haven't raised any money yet. So we've got a team of 130. And so it's wonderful. And one of the things that Bill has helped us create since he's been here is a true apprentice model ship, where we can bring in someone that has no experience in furniture finishing or woodworking that wants to learn and teach them the skills that they need, to be successful and to grow at the company. And so that's been really fun to go, from somebody that had no woodworking experience to having a team of people that are way more experienced at that than I am now, and being able to foster that, because it's, you tour factories in North Carolina. We had a lot of that in this country, and a lot of it went overseas. And so it's really neat to see people so actively going out of their way to supporting bringing the art of craftsmanship back to our country.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love so much about your story. As I was, preparing for our conversation today, you actually prefer to bring people in with little to no experience, so they don't bring bad habits with them. Right. So you're a company that will hire for fit and then develop them for the skills that they need. And like you said, you've brought some of those older, techniques. I think one of the things you talked about was brushing on finish as opposed to spraying on finish. So you're able to develop people exactly the way you want them.
Yeah, we do a lot of things, bench built, where we don't have $1 million pieces of equipment that are laminating wood or punching out things. The things are done by hand. I think that gives you a sense of pride that you don't get when you're just a machine operator. I think it is why our team members choose to stay around and enjoy what they do and love getting pictures back from customers of a piece that they built and the nice things that the customer said about it. So.
Yeah. One of the other things I love about your business is your heavy experience. Obviously the website and the shopping and experience is very, very intuitive, but then so many personal touches along the way. And this used to be true. I believe it's still true. You've got a delivery team that's actually loading the furniture up and taking it to the customer's home and placing, as opposed to, putting it on a freight carrier. And from a customer standpoint, obviously that's a really nice extra touch, but you also found that there's real efficiency in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did for a long time, we did our own nationwide deliveries. We would load it up and take it to Chicago or Dallas or
Yeah.
New York or Atlanta or anywhere in between. And that enabled us several key advantages. I think number one, a lot of the times when Google sees a furniture store pop up, they assume that that is a geographically relevant place. So, if you're searching for furniture, Google's not going to serve you a local furniture store in Pennsylvania. And so by doing these deliveries and advertising on Craigslist and all these other cities, we had all of this traffic searching for us and coming to our sites from all over the country. So Google said, hey, this is a nationally relevant furniture brand, not a furniture location that we shouldn't serve to somebody in North Carolina or California. So that really helped us. Today, fast forward, we do have some really great final mile agents that we utilize. And it's allowed us to scale. It was not a easily scalable model, doing all the deliveries ourselves, but we do still get the personal touch locally, taking those deliveries to people, within about an hour range of Northwest Arkansas, going in their homes, learning more about them and why they chose us and what we could do for them, next.
Yeah. So with such a high touch model, do you do an awful lot of repeat business with the same customers, or are by far the majority of the people that you're doing business with today having a first-time experience?
Great question. Yeah, we struggled with that for a while because we were very well known for our dining room furniture. And so, I think something like 95% of our business was in the dining room. And so occasionally we'd have people that would buy a kitchen table from us to kind of test the waters. They'd love it. They'd love the experience. They'd come back and buy the dining room table. But we didn't really have anything else to sell them at that point. And we didn't want them. And then we knew they weren't going to need a new table, right? Unless they just wanted a new table, because we were building something that was going to last. And so that's why over the last couple of years, building out into the bed offering that we now have, the home office offering that we have, living room, those have been key for us. Even still, dining is probably about 75% of our business. But with that, we have about 15% of our customers that do come back and repeat in a different category. And we see that as being a really big growth opportunity for us over the next couple of years is how do we, are we going to open up an upholstery furniture shop, and start doing, other categories. So we're looking at a lot of growth opportunities. But when you think of it in terms of, okay, we've scaled over the last, 11 years to 130 people. Think about how big we could go if we were, doing more business in some of those other categories that we haven't focused on, because dining has given us, more growth than we can handle most of the time.
Yeah. So two of the things that you've stood for from the beginning has been, one is your whenever it's possible, your sourcing of wood. You've always been real focused on, sustainable, right. Environmentally friendly sources of wood. The other has been a real dedication to creating jobs. So talk about from a big picture standpoint, what are some of the things where you've been fairly consistent from the beginning, and talk about some of the biggest ways that the business has changed, especially in the last couple of years. You mentioned Bill Aikens, and we talked off camera a little bit about John James, but you brought some real intellectual heavyweights into the business that I sense have really helped you to take it a lot further, a lot faster. So kind of talk about what's the same and what are some of the things that are the most different?
Yeah, absolutely. I think hitting on sustainability first, this is the sustainable way to buy furniture. You can go to a furniture store and you can buy a piece of furniture that was taken to that store from a distribution center, that was shipped literally across the world, that was manufactured in a facility. Like when you look at it in terms of our shop is bringing in bunks of responsibly and sustainably harvested hardwood from U.S. mills. We take that, turn it into furniture, and ship it straight to the customer out the other door. There's a lot less, emissions taking place during that. There's a lot less back and forth. Some companies will buy hardwood in the US, ship it to Vietnam, turn it into furniture, ship it here, get it to the stores. There's just a lot of unnecessary movement, not to mention the chemicals that are involved with veneering and pressing and those things that we don't get involved with in our manufacturing. And then you mix into the fact too, that we are building a product that doesn't have a planned obsolescence. Like most of the time you're buying a dining room table, that you're probably going to have to replace it in 8 years, maybe, when it breaks down and tears apart. And with ours, ours are designed to be kept. And so a lot less of them are going to end up in landfills than some of the
kept and passed on, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Worst case scenario, you're going to sand it down and refinish it and it looks brand new, right? If after decades of use. So there's a lot that we love about that, and we've stayed true to all of that. Very, very much a lot of our business is production wise is very much the same, almost to our disadvantage is when we were doing in the early days. We have chosen to do more, spend our time on figuring out how we do more than how we do what we do better. And so we're starting to ask some of those questions. What economies of scale can we take advantage of now, that didn't make sense when we asked those questions a couple of years ago, but now do with the volume that we're moving. But yeah, I think a lot of the growth, has come from a couple of different things. Obviously getting really smart people in the room. I think the great thing about operating a business that's outside of your wheelhouse, having not grown up with craftsmen, in a craftsman household, and having very limited power tool usage, I think that gave me the advantage of knowing that I don't know a lot, and saying, okay, we're going to need to bring some really smart people in the room. The organization will always be limited by me if I allow it to be. So how do we bring in people that have strengths that I don't, and really take it to the next level? And one of the things that we did 2 years ago that really helped us have some very explosive growth over the last 2 years is we knew that the imagery on our website didn't portray our brand as well as we wanted it to. You come into our downtown Springdale store experience where you can see the furniture in person, you can look through giant glass windows, see it being built. It was an amazing experience. When you go on our site, a lot of the imagery was customer submitted or things we tried to do. We just didn't have good imagery. So we were actually able to bring CGI imagery to play. So most of the images on our site now are actually photoreal CGI, which allows us to create a product, model it in 3D space, skin it in all 6 colors, and put it in a dozen different styles of rooms. And better images means better ads, better click-through on the ads, better conversion on the site. So that has been super key of having the technology to innovate on product and on imagery really fast by not having to build a set, build a table in 6 different finished colors, pull it in, have chairs in every color imaginable to mix and match with, but to be able to do all of that with pixels has been key. And then of course, adding, firepower to that of bringing in people that are, world-class at online advertising and cost per clicks and SEO and all those things, and kind of, working our best to get the right people in the right seats.
So your shopping experience has always been really good, really intuitive. And I heard you say in another conversation that it's because you've been so focused on the customer, making the customer the hero, focusing on occasions. How much space do they have? What problem are they trying to solve? What does their family look like? How much space, et cetera. Talk a little bit about that sort of unique approach to customer centricity.
Yeah, I think that, when you go to a lot of company sites, especially companies that have a cool story, they started in their garage or whatever it is, they think that the customer, that's the main reason the customer is buying. And it's not. The main reason the customer is buying is probably somewhere on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? They, all of our customers, they've got shelter, they've got food. And so now they're working to grow in their social circles. There's something there that they have a need, right? Everybody walks around their day feeling like they are the hero in their story, and they're trying to figure out how they progress, and so on our site, we're very intentional about making our customer the hero. We're not the hero, and recognizing that and functioning in a guide mentality to say, okay, what is it? Why are they really buying a new dining room table? They're not buying a solid wood handcrafted dining room table because they need someplace to put their bowl, right? If that was the case, they just go and buy the cheapest thing they could get. There's something more to that. So really diving into the psychology of that and making it about them. And recognizing too that I think there's some companies that hang their hats on things like sustainability or whatever it is. Hey, if you buy a table from us, we donate a table to someone that's in need. Or, all these things that are great, and a lot of those things we do at James and James, but we don't make that the reason you should buy a table from us. The reason you're buying a table from us, is something else, and you're also going to buy the table at the end of the day that you think is beautiful and that is at a price point you're willing to pay. So we focus first and foremost on, sure, we're garage started. Sure, we're hardwood. Sure, we create jobs in the US. Sure, we're sustainable. Sure, we're customizable. All these things that we know are selling points outside of the market. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a beautiful product and it isn't in a price point that the customer is close to the other items that the customers are looking at, they're not going to buy from us for those reasons. Those things will, once we're in the consideration set, once they say, hey, we really like this Pottery Barn table and we really like this James and James table, we get in that consideration set because both products are beautiful. They're both at a price point the customer wants to pay. And then they go with us because they can customize it, because they want to support craftsmen, because they like the sustainability, whatever that, whatever it is that speaks to them. And I think the other great thing about it is people love to brag, right? And so we work really hard to make our customers look good when they buy from us. So you imagine it, especially at something like a dining room table, that's where you're bringing your loved ones and your friends and you're entertaining. And when you have a group of people over and they, hey, I love this table. Where did you get it? What story do you want to tell? Oh, I got it at, big box national brand. Or let me tell you about this company. They started in a garage. They employ apprentices and train them. They're sustainable. We give our customers the talking points to make themselves look really good and to say, look at what I did. I supported this company, and they love doing that. That's one of the reasons we've been able to grow organically a lot in the early days.
Yeah, I think we as people, we want to be a part of a story, especially a story that's so easy to get excited about, a story that's easy to be proud of. And we want to feel like we're some part of that story.
Absolutely.
So for a lot of companies, especially e-commerce operators, the pandemic was devastating for some in a purely economic sense. It was the best thing that ever could have happened to them. Talk about what your business looked like pre-pandemic. What were some of the trends that were either disrupted in a negative way or they were accelerated in a really positive way? And so talk about sort of what it meant in the short term, and then now that we're a little ways out of it, so it seems, what does your business look like now?
Yeah,
as a consequence of.
Sure. Yeah, I think that we think of it in terms of what happened as a result of everything that happened in the world. That was definitely wind, behind our backs, right, and in our sales. We went from about 30 people pre-pandemic to 130 people today. But if you look at the numbers, if you look industry wide, okay, what lift was there in the furniture world or online furniture or whatever you want to look at? We dramatically and vastly outperform any of those metrics. So I think that it certainly helped us. Certainly a lot of our competitors were shut down. They couldn't build. We never were shut down from a manufacturing facility in our state. Our website was always open. We didn't have to close our store. A lot of people that were concerned with going in store across the country were, going online. So there's certainly a lot of elements that helped us out during that time, but the elements of growth were ad buy, imagery, website optimizations, those things that we were working on despite that. But certainly it was easier to achieve those things with the macroeconomic conditions. I think for us, mostly, we, especially as we look at things shifting back, and I think the general consensus in the furniture industry right now isn't that things are declining. They're just settling back down to more normal, like more people are returning to shopping in stores, things like that. And for us, we just think that we have such a small market penetration that it really doesn't matter what macroeconomics are doing. Like, we're not bound to, the furniture industry is down 10%. Well, that's okay. We can still find another 40 people to buy our furniture. It's just, we've barely, like I keep telling the team, we're 5% of the size that we could be. And so let's just go out and sure, it might be harder to grow. We might have to fight harder for it. But with us, this year so far, we've shipped to all 50 states. And we've got 130 people, we're growing. But if you look at the amount of furniture that's being sold in this country and the portion of that we get, there's so much room for growth, even if we're in the worst economy possible, right?
What are some of the challenges that you're anticipating and planning for today? I mean, obviously inflation is hitting industry and households across the board, but what are some of the other things that you're kind of keeping an eye on in terms of, macroeconomic headwinds, or maybe there's still tailwinds, coming out of the pandemic and people have money to spend? Where's your head at beyond kind of the day-to-day operation today?
Yeah, I think, we feel like we have very little control over what happens with the economy over the next 12, 18 months. But so we're really focused on how are we well positioned for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And what we're seeing is that, if you look at the furniture buying population, there's constantly people aging into the furniture buying population, right? When I started the company, I was not in a place where I had a family and was buying nice furniture and furnishing a home. And now fast forward 11 years, I am. So when you look at things of who is going to be in the furniture buying population in 10 years and 15 years, it's individuals that know nothing but online shopping. And the people that only will go in store and won't buy a chair without sitting in it or whatever it is, they're aging out of the furniture buying population. And so we very much feel like if all you do is buy furniture from somebody else and put it in your store and sell it with a markup, you're in trouble. And so we think that the winners over the next 10, 15, 20 years are going to be defined by those that are online and know online and know how to do online, know how to treat their customers well. Because if you don't treat your customers well online, it's going to be very well known. And then outside of that, are you vertically integrated and are you direct to consumer, right? Like, I feel very strongly that if all you do is manufacture dining room tables overseas and you sell them to stores and they sell them to customers, a competitor is going to come, set up shop, and they're going to sell direct to consumer online. And you cut out all of the costs of your expensive store and your markups and commissions and all that good thing. That's where it's going, right? You look at everything from when the music industry first flipped to, all the stuff that's the commodities that started going on Amazon. You're either vertically integrated and you have your own products, or you don't have a reason to exist. And so that's really what we're focused on is how do we continue to set ourselves up for that? And if you look at it, you're like, who else is selling customizable, handcrafted hardwood furniture online? Right now, we've got a lot of advantages because there's not a lot of people, but we also recognize that the more blood there is in the water there and the more opportunity there is, the competition will come. And so we need to be prepared for that.
There's some things I think I know are correct, but of course I thought I was right about you raising money and turned out wrong. Are you selling furniture that you're not building yourself? So you're buying it and then finishing it. And are you selling anything on Amazon and other marketplaces, or is 100% of it through your own website?
Yeah, good question. So the vast majority of our sales, I'd say probably 90 to 95%, are purchased through our website. We do some stuff on Amazon, Etsy, and House. We see Amazon as being a huge opportunity, and we're working a plan to go after that. But right now, it's a very small portion of the pie. We just haven't focused energy on that. We have 3 different categories of products that we sell. The first category is products that we build and shop and do from start to finish. We bring in the wood, we build it, we stain it, we send it out. And that represents the vast majority of our revenue. And then we have some other products, namely dining chairs that we get from a partner manufacturer. They come to our shop raw in solid hardwood, and then our team stains and finishes those to coordinate with our table sets. Just because we don't have the machinery to do those cost effectively. And then we also augment with some pieces that we just retail. So some of the upholstered chairs that we have on our site, we don't have that capacity yet or that capability. Things in store like fixtures, rugs. We've partnered with some great people that we found at market that represent our values and represent our quality. So when you're on the site, each product page will tell you, it'll say, this isn't made by James and James, this is just curated, or this is just finished, or this is built. And there's also product icons. So you can really clearly see, is this something that is built or just curated? But if we stopped doing the curated thing, we would barely recognize it in our revenue numbers. The vast majority of our customers want and are buying the products that we build start to finish in our shop.
Yeah. Do you think that'll always be the case? Because from an outsider's perspective, it seems like the greatest opportunity for growth comes from buckets 2 and 3, where you don't have the issues with capacity. You don't have the need to have all the raw materials and the labor and so forth. You've got the ability to curate other great products where you're touching them, like bucket number 2, where you're doing the finishing, or whether it's just 100% already made by somebody else. They share your values and so forth. It seems like that would be a tremendous opportunity for growth. Do you not see it that way?
I think it is. But I also think if that had been the majority of our revenue during COVID, we'd have been in big trouble. We had a hard time getting upholstered chairs and raw chairs. And it didn't really affect us that much because the vast majority of our sales were products that we controlled from beginning to end. And I think also it was very fortunate for us that hardwood was a essential service and never slowed down. We never had a problem getting the hardwoods that we needed. And the rest of it was within our control. Like if we were behind on production, it was our fault. And so having that, level of control, I think is what has been important. And I think that our customers just continually tell us, like, we've got a series of quick ship items on our site right now that are from from vendors that we've curated, and they don't sell. People want the products that we're building. And so I think for us, we're starting to have those questions of, what if we opened up a couch or a upholstery, business? Why can't we do that? Why can't we hire in that talent, buy those tools, rent that square footage, and flip another segment of the furniture industry on its head?
Well, which alludes to my final question in broad terms, and you've just partially answered it, but in broad terms, what's next for James and James? Is there anything standing in the way of growth where, bringing in investment capital is going to be a necessity? Are there other industries that you think that the sorts of relationships you're developing with customers and the products and services that you're offering can be recontextualized and introduced in other industries? Is there opportunities internationally, other markets? Just big picture, what's ahead?
Yeah, I think the great thing right now is that we have no shortage of opportunities. We've got a giant list of things we could do and what we want to go after. And it's really prioritizing that and saying, okay, how fast do we want to grow? Do we want to grow at the speed of cash? Do we want to bring in an outside investment and really ramp this thing faster? What categories do we want to go into first? We're working on some imagery for front doors, which is very exciting for us. We think that's an underserved market. It's really hard to find a custom solid wood front door. So I think of Amazon we see as being a huge opportunity, importing some things directly ourselves instead of getting those from partners. So for us, it's more about which of these, makes the most sense to go after. But for us, the one thing is true, one of our core values is unapologetic growth. Like we created this business to create jobs and to create high growth jobs. And so, I tell the team, the only thing that's guaranteed is that everything's going to change. Right. And so, finding people that are flexible enough to say, we don't know how we're going to change this thing up, what's going to be different, or which direction we're going to go. So I think for us, it's, especially with the growth and that we've had over the last couple of years, we're really at this crossroads of, okay, where do we go from here? How fast do we go? Do we want to partner with somebody to do that? Or what does that look like? And I think that we're, in the midst of having those discussions as a leadership team of what that looks like. And it's exciting.
James Smith, co-founder and CEO of James and James. Like I said, I've been a longtime fan of the brand and certainly a lot of the folks on your team. Congratulations on your success. Thank you so much for what you're doing in Northwest Arkansas. And I appreciate you making the time to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Have a great day. So long.